Are you ready to slay but you're stuck with your dud gear? We've all been there. Have you been told that you need to break the bank in order to buy a good metal guitar? Think again. With this budget metal setup, I'm going to debunk the myths and reveal the secret to unlocking killer metal tone. Discover the fatal flaws guitarists make when picking their gear and how to avoid them. Get ready to question everything you think you know about guitar gear. Now, before I open this budget-friendly metal guitar, what even makes a guitar metal anyway? A metal guitar is like a wild, savage beast that you have to tame. A metal guitar needs powerful pickups. It needs to be built for speed, has to have a huge, brutal sound. It needs to respond to your playing. It needs to have a unique finish and a dominating presence. And finally, it has to be able to take some abuse from some aggressive playing. Now, finding a guitar with all of those qualities would usually break the bank. So, is it possible to find a wild, savage metal beast guitar on a budget? The problem with most budget metal guitars is that they are usually all-rounders so that they can cater to all playing styles. When you're looking for a low-cost metal guitar, you're often sacrificing quality woods, unique finishes, and high-end parts in exchange for affordability, which can mean in the long run you end up spending more money upgrading all the parts to make it more metal. So how do you find a metal guitar on a budget? Well, I think I found it. G4M sent me this guitar, and bloody hell, I bet you'll never guess how much it costs. But I'll give you some time to think about it and see if you can get it right. Let's have a look at it. Oh, neatly packaged up. There it is. It's got a nice little bit of tape on top. Ugh. Pretty sure it's a 6-string. Pretty sure it's got Floyd Rose on it. So there's some tips for you from how much it might cost. Start getting that brain going. How much do you think it might be, considering it's got all these high-end upgraded parts? If I can get it out of the bag. I can never get these things off without ripping it. Oh, there you go, I ripped it. Ripped it again. Too much pressure. Here we go. Ta-da! Based on first impressions, I bet you still can't guess how much it costs. Let me give you some hints by showing you some of the specs of this beautiful guitar, and maybe that'll get your brain going and you'll be spot on guessing how much it costs. So it's a 6-string guitar. It's got Floyd Rose Special. It's got 2 G4M pickups. I'm pretty sure are active because there's a battery cavity on the back here. It's got access to the Floyd Rose. It's got a 3-way switch. It's got this beautiful poplar barrel top, which is actually quite a fancy feature for a lot of guitars like Solar, ESP and Ibanez and those kind of companies. It's a lightweight top on there. It's good for resonance. It's also got stainless steel frets, which is a beautiful feature for a guitar. And it's a 5-piece neck on the back, as you can see with all these different strips of wood here. Let's cut to this one. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So go on then, how much do you think a guitar with all those cool specs would actually cost? Bet you can't guess. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with this one. Usually a guitar with all these high-end specs would be around about £999. But this one is just under £300, which is mind-blowing. My favourite feature of the guitar straight away is the poplar barrel top. Stands out a mile off. Catches my eye straight away. I love guitars like this. It's got a bit of green flecks in there too. And it absolutely shines in the light, as you can see here. Look at that. It's absolutely beautiful. Such a nice colour. Wood like this screams quality. It's expensive. Stainless steel frets as well. For a guitar that's under £300, that's absolutely unheard of. So the first thing I'm going to do, like I do with every guitar I get sent from a warehouse, a factory or direct, is I completely strip it and I restring it and I set it up to my own preference, just the way I like it. And to be fair, I think that's a huge mistake for pretty much every guitarist, is that they don't set up the guitars as soon as they get them. You don't know if you're really going to like a guitar if you're getting it straight from a shop and it's been in there for 6 months and no one's restrung it for ages. So don't make that mistake. Restring your guitar as soon as you get it. Whilst I set that up, let's talk amps. Because another big mistake that beginners make when they're trying to play metal guitar is they don't have a good amp for metal. So what makes an amp good for metal? For starters, they have to be able to create earth-shattering, crunching, chugging metal riff tones. They have to have an epic bass response. They have to provide super chugs, but also incredible clarity as well. They need to be versatile, but also sort of do one thing really, really well. There's nothing worse than an amp that doesn't have a good bass response and it goes all flubby and weird when you put high gain metal pickups through it. So many times when I've been in stores and I'm like, can I try that guitar? And they're like, yeah, here's a Fender Tweed combo. And I'm like, look at me. I don't want to play a Fender Tweed combo. I want to play a PV5150 or a Mesa triple rectifier and all those kind of amps that sound super heavy metal. I don't need a Fender clean amp. I need super duper, balls to the wall, high gain, loud metal amps. But a metal amp on a budget, is that possible? I mean, I just listed a PV5150 and a Mesa triple rectifier, which are both pretty expensive. And once again, G4M Music have got us covered. So, high gain metal amps on a budget. What do we expect from this? Once again, I'm not going to tell you how much it costs. You need to figure that out yourself. But I'm really intrigued to open this for starters and then see how it looks, how it sounds, how it feels. Looks pretty small. It says here it's the 20 watt guitar amp head. Is that enough for metal? Let's find out. When I was younger, I always thought I had to have 100 watt guitar amps, super loud things that were really heavy and they were hard to carry. Some of my amps have a 1 watt setting and that's loud as anything. Ugh. Get rid of that, thank you. Here we go. Here is, ta-da, the amp. Look at that. So this is pretty cool. Never tried this before. On the front we've got bass, middle and treble like we always do. Oh, it says clean here. We might want to use clean because I like to replicate Metallica cleans, but initially we're going for earth-shattering tones. Then we've got drive, gain and volume. And also on here it's got crunch, overdrive, lead and metal. So technically it should be able to do metal. Some cool features though to point out. You can see on the front there, it's got a headphone output as well. See it there? And a foot switch one. There you go, you can see the back now as well. Just got speaker out, power, and an effects loop, send and return. So with all these features, how much do you think it costs? I don't know how much it costs, so let's look it up. Do you think it's going to be more expensive than the guitar? Right there. G4M GA20E, I think that's our one. It's £99.99p. I mean, that's a pretty low price. It's pretty incredible if you ask me. Does it sound incredible though? Let's see if Jamie's finished setting up the guitar and then we'll see how the amp sounds. Oh. So in the setup I did a basic reed string. I've put 10 to 46 only ball strings on there for E standard. I changed the height of the floating Floyd Rose special so I can have it to my preference. I slightly changed the pickup height as well. Checked under these, notice there is no battery, so they are not active pickups, they are indeed passives. So this is a split coil, which means it turns it from a humbucker into a single coil. So this is just an amp head, just to clarify. That means there's no speakers, there's no sound coming out of this unless it's plugged into something else. For the sake of this recording, I'm using this 2 notes capture box down here, this little white thing. That means I can have the speaker cable coming out of the back of this head into the 2 notes attenuator, and then that has an XLR cable that goes into my computer interface. That's to make sure that I don't blow up both my computer and the amp by plugging it directly into itself. It also means I get the raw signal of the amp and I can change the cab sound whenever I feel like it based on what preset I'm using or what kind of music I'm recording. One thing to be aware of, this amp has a global EQ, which means the EQ settings that you have here affect every single channel. The clean has its own volume and the other channels have their own gain and volume as well. A unique feature this amp has also is an auxiliary input, meaning you can play along to music, jam some backing tracks or practice your favourite band's songs. It also has headphone output too, which will mute any speaker sounds so you can play quietly and not disturb anyone around you. So a mistake I guarantee most of you will probably try with a head like this is you'll see that headphone output and go, do you know what? I'm going to get a speaker cable, I'm going to plug it into there, and I'm going to plug it into my MP3 player speaker or my Beats Pill or my little speaker I've got lying around, and I'm going to play my amp through that. Don't do that. What you really want to do is put the head into an attenuator or an interface or an IR pedal and load some cabinet responses, or if you've got a big hefty cab, mic it up. So now for this example, I'm going to show you how versatile cabinets are. I'm going to keep the EQ on the amp basically the same, not going to touch it. I'm going to show you first the unprocessed sound with no cabinets, and then I'm going to go through some cabs and we'll show how versatile they are. This is it with basically nothing. Here it is now with a cab. I'm using the Zilla GGD cabinets. Just going to use the first one, basic metal. I mean, straight away, like I said, I haven't touched any of these dials, and to me that sounds completely different. On, off. As a teenager, I would have thought, bloody hell, that sounds amazing. I don't need a cabinet, but as soon as you use cabs, they sound great. This one is basic metal. It's made by Misha from Periphery. It's 3 SM57s and a variation of different speakers. Then we've got some boutique room ones. Those will be a bit more roomy and reverby. And as you can see, there's no reverb on this amp. I haven't put any effects on. It's that the microphone is actually further away from the speaker, so it sounds like there's reverb in the room. Then we've got some genty ones for all you modern metal players out there. I mean, I can't believe how versatile cabinets are. For the last 15 years or so, I was like, the head is the biggest thing. The head is the most important thing that makes all the changes in the sound. Nothing else makes any difference. All you need to do nowadays is find the right cabinet to fit your sound, and it will make the same amp head sound completely different. So we've talked about this head, we've talked about how to craft tone on a budget and use IR responses. So let's see, let's put this guitar to its true test. Can it play 4 different metal styles and 4 different metal tones? I'm going to try some deathcore down-tuned, I'm going to try some clean, some thrash, and some lead stuff using the floating arm as well. Let's go, let's see how it sounds. Did it pass the thrash test? I think it did. The neck is well rounded and thin, so I could play really fast riffs. I didn't have any issues with the floating bridge with tuning or anything like that. I play quite aggressively, and a lot of the time I can knock guitars out of tune quite easily with my down picks and my gallops and all that kind of stuff, heavy picking. This guitar didn't go out of tune, it's still in tune, the Floyd Rose locking system is doing a great job, and it passed the thrash test. Let's see how well it does deathcore sounds. Does it do deathcore well? I used the down tune pedal to make it sound lower, and I think it actually struggled quite a bit in that tuning. The pickups didn't help either because they're not very high output. I've got them pretty much as close to the string as I can get them, and they still kind of struggle with those kind of low end bass responses and the rumbles that you'd want from like a drop A or a drop G sharp guitar. So I'd say if you were going to play deathcore on this, you probably would want to change the pickups to something higher output. Let's try out some clean tones. Clean tone sounds great. I was actually really pleasantly surprised with this guitar. Usually a guitar at this price point wouldn't sound as good in clean as it did. That's because the poplar barrel top is resonant and has a lot of sustain because it's a tone wood. You don't usually get woods like this on cheaper guitars. They're usually around the £600 to £1,000 mark. Also the stainless steel frets were helping the notes ring out true and clean as well. And I really think the pickup sounded best in this tone as well, because when I was switching between the neck and the bridge, I noticed a big difference, whereas with some of the other presets, I didn't really notice that much of a difference at all. Let's now try lead tones. I thought the lead tone sounded great. It screamed. This Floyd Rose stayed in tune perfectly. I was doing the Dimebag squeals, the Kirk Hammett squeals, doing some little shreds, stayed in tune really well. I was giving it some abuse, but I thought the pickup sounded good. Again, I probably would want a little bit more output, so I probably would maybe use a boost pedal, or I would change the pickups to be higher output, but other than that, I think it sounded great. Overall, for the price point, I'd say I was pleasantly surprised. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're looking for a new budget guitar is they discredit any of the smaller brands and only look at the well-known ones. They shouldn't do that, because when you get a smaller brand, you're getting such high quality features like this poplar burl top and this stainless steel frets. You can't get a stainless steel fret guitar for under £300 anywhere else. Even though they're not well known for playing metal, doesn't mean you can't play metal on one of these guitars. So I would encourage all of you, next time you're looking for a new budget guitar, to check out G4M. The next mistake most people make is they lack knowledge about what kind of pickups they need for the kind of genres that they're playing. As you heard in the demos, these pickups sounded great for a few select genres. You might need to do some upgrades if you want to play things like modern metal or deathcore. So a tip I have for all you guitarists out there, especially the beginners, is go out and educate yourself on what pickups make the sound you like. Look at your favourite guitarist and study which pickups that they use. Look at people like Knowlegde, look at Bare Knuckle, look at Fishman, look at EMG. Compare the pickup sounds and why do they use them. Why do certain people use certain pickups for deathcore? Why do certain people use certain pickups for metalcore? Don't discredit an entire guitar just because you don't get the full sound you want. Educate yourself with what pickups can make it sound like that, because it's easy to take the pickups out of this and put in different ones and try them out. If you don't know how to do it yourself, take it to a local shop or a luthier and they can do it for you. And then the great thing about having a guitar like this is that it's already so affordable, so changing the pickups in it isn't going to break the bank. Have G4M nailed the budget metal guitar. Some things that I really like about it. This poplar top. You don't usually get things like this on a budget metal guitar. Usually it'd be $600 to $1,000, and I think that's beautiful. It's eye-catching, it's striking, and to me it screams metal. The Floyd Rose Special, really impressed with it. It stayed in tune super well. The pickups, they worked well in a few genres. Again, if you're going to do modern metal or deathcore, maybe you'd want to change them, but for the kind of music I make, Metallica, Slayer, Silosis, that kind of stuff, they suited it pretty good. The neck is beautiful, 5-piece wood. The axis here is great for higher frets and solos. The stainless steel frets, for starters, again, you don't get stainless steel frets in budget guitars, that's just not a thing. And the fact that they've got them on a guitar that's less than £300 is absolutely astounding. The lock-in nut at the top as well, that didn't have any issues, it didn't come out of tune or anything. They're normal tuning pegs, they're not locking ones, you don't really need locking ones on a Floyd, and those were great too. I love the headstock shape. The neck is 5-piece wood and it feels comfortable and it feels fast. The only real issue I had at all was there's a tiny crack in the fretboard. That's more likely due to transit or warehouse conditions. That doesn't reflect the quality of the build itself. I'd say this guitar is built really well, it's really sturdy, and it works really well for metal specifically, especially for me. Again, the only thing I would change if I was playing certain genres is I'd change the pickups out, but that again is pretty much for preference of which genre you're going to play. But at this price point, it makes it super affordable to craft your own tones and change the pickups you like based on the genres you want to play. And then we come on to the amp. The amp has kind of minimal features. It has a global EQ. I prefer lots of different EQ settings for different channels. If you're going to have 5 channels, I kind of would want more. It's a bit annoying to have to change them on every single one. Has an effects loop, which is really useful if you're utilizing modulation pedals like chorus, reverb, delay. The fact that it has headphones is pretty cool, but again, like I said earlier, it has no cab in those headphone sounds, so it doesn't sound great, so you might need to use something else with that as well. But one thing I was impressed with, the clean tone sounded really nice. It'll be a really good pedal platform for people who play clean or they play crunch or low gain. For the kind of overdriven, crunchy AC/DC type sounds, I think it sounds great. But if you're going to push it to metal, metalcore, deathcore, that kind of stuff, you would probably need loads of pedals as well, noise gates, boosts, impulse responses, cabs, that kind of stuff. But it's a good all-rounder starter if you want to start building your tone or heading down your tone journey of what kind of metal you want to play or what kind of music you want to play on your guitar. And again, for under £100, you can't really go wrong for this amp. Would I recommend it for a budget metal player? Maybe not. I'd probably look at something a bit more specifically tuned to metal. I'm not saying it can't do metal, but again, the metal preset it comes with pretty much shows that it doesn't really do metal. It's kind of like a generic metal sound, and a lot of metal tone is a lot more dialed back gain and not just balls to the wall everything at 11. So I'd probably look elsewhere if you're going to look for metal, but for all other beginner sounds or rock sounds or low gain stuff, it sounds perfectly fine. I'd say the absolute standout thing in this video is the guitar. I couldn't say more about how much I like it, so if you're looking for a budget metal setup, look no further than G4 Music.